Hi, welcome back. I'm Abhishek, and today we are with Kumar, our very own CEO and common person for all the podcast. And our topic for today's podcast is what people get wrong about gut health. Welcome, Kumar.
Thank you, Abhishek, for having me, and thank you for taking your time to do this.
You're welcome. So, Kumar, for the first question, when people say my gut is unhealthy, what do they really mean? What is happening in there?
I mean, there are so many different things that people mean about that, right? I mean, some people might be feeling bloated, and hence they're saying the gut is unhealthy. There could be acid reflux, a lot of acidity, burping because of that, and they're saying gut is unhealthy. Then there are people who uh, can, at the slightest trigger, need to rush to the loo. They plan their entire day based on when they have to go to the loo and all of that. So, based on that, people say that their gut is unhealthy. Um, then, like how Amitabh Bachchan showed in Pico, constipation is also, especially the elderly. So, that's a big problem. And again, there people say their gut is unhealthy.
Let's dissect this little more from the basic and let's go to the Amitabh Bachchan level of the later on podcast. So it starts off with smaller discomfort, right? From discomfort, you go to the dysfunctional gut. So do you want to add more onto that?
Yeah, but discomfort is when the certain foods that you're using, you're consuming. It is your body's not getting adapted to it, and it's causing problems with acidity. Could be bloating. Could be sensitivity to it. It could lead to food sensitivity kind of a thing situation, and that could be what how it starts, and then slowly you tend to see a lot more dysfunction in gut, where it leads to more serious problems.
Bloating is one of the earliest symptoms, I'm assuming, right? Is that the first symptoms we need to take care of? Is there earlier signs we need to look after?
I wouldn't necessarily say it is the first symptom. It is something that is commonly experienced by a lot of people as they get older. And I mean, bloating is an issue that you talk to anybody above the age of 30, they'll probably say they have bloating issues, and it is, again, it is probably not a sign of your gut being wrong, but persistent bloating is definitely a sign of there is a little bit of imbalance that is there in the gut.
So this earlier symptom is the bloating. Is there any earlier symptom before that?
It could be acid reflux, a lot of acidity. It could be indigestion. Uh, there could be many other symptoms. I mean, you can't place one over the other.
So let's say acid reflux. When it happens way often, like every other week, are they in an earlier stage? Are they moved on to a dysfunction stage?
No, especially persistent acid reflux, if it's happening very often, is a sign of the imbalance that's there in the gut microbiome. And though the way to rectify that is to ensure that you rebalance the microbiome, and this way you can bring the acidity low.
We did discuss about balancing the gut in previous podcast about supplements and the food as well. So for the acid reflux, do you have any preliminary uh, suggestion you would like to do before the testing and before we going through the wellness doctors?
Sure. I mean, but I usually don't like saying this food is good and that food is bad. I mean, because it's all person dependent and situation dependent. But let's take my personal experience. Anytime I have, after, I think when I turned close to about 38, 39, if I had too much of milk and coffee, I would start developing acidity and bloating. And that's when I realized that milk is problematic for me, and might not be for certain people. It is dal that is actually causing a little bit of the acidity. So we could differ from person to person. It's important to check, note, and see what is causing this.
Just to plug in, then get the test done. Micro, you got.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it'll always be nice to get the test done and to know where where you stand and what actions that you need to take. But it's also important to mentally at least note down or physically note down when you're having this problem. What kind of food triggers it? What time points trigger it?
Self-monitoring.
Yeah.
These are okay. Nice suggestion. How much variability is actually healthy for us? Uh, we discussed on the previous podcast, but only in the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me put it this way. I mean, when there is lack of diversity in the gut, it is problematic. It causes all kinds of problems. Mildly, as the diversity slowly starts decreasing, you start getting symptoms like acidity, bloating, you start putting out weight, those kind of things. But when the diversity really reduces, that's when you get into serious problems. IBD, IBS, depression. So those kind of problems. Now the reverse, where we're saying, can I say a lot of diversity is good for you? We don't know the answer for that as yet. The scientific community still hasn't reached a point saying that diversity over this is really good, and more the diversity, the better it is for you. Lesser the diversity is bad for you. More the diversity, we still don't know. We assume it is good, but we still have to find out those answers.
So let me recall back the words you discussed on the previous podcast. You mentioned that we still know only 10% of the gut ecosystem, right? So for this 10%, we know that the diversity is better.
Yes.
And we also discussed diversity in the gut is better, but not about other places when we tested.
Good.
So you have any future sight on like the rest of the 90% if you research? So would that change the entire knowledge you have or the belief system you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, every year the belief system and the knowledge we have is increasing and is changing, right? And when I mentioned it, I mentioned it. The entire community, the world community put together, we understand less than 10% of the gut microbiome. So it's a knowledge gathering exercise for the entire community to try and understand this much better. We are years away from achieving it. But as we get more and more information about this, the better our knowledge becomes, and what may be true today might not be true tomorrow.
So this kind of scares me actually. Even last podcast when they discussed, or it's not just about this field. Any medical field where they say it changes. Today what we know, we are medicating or we're suggesting, but tomorrow we don't know. So it's kind of scary to understand. But do you have any message or information to give us?
At the same time, you have to act with the knowledge that you have today, right? And that is why it is very, very important to be abreast with the latest scientific findings that are coming out. The What I don't like is simplistic notions, saying that diversity is always good, kind of simplistic notion. There is a star mark to it, right? I mean, as long as we acknowledge what that star mark is and what is it that we know and what is it that we don't know, I think that is a good way. I mean, in the microbiome field and in general biological sciences.
Wise wisdom from Kumar. So you started this company in like way before you said 38 when you found the milk as your problematic stuff. Before that, did you have any time or a particular age that you had a disconnect and you realized this is where I need to take care of my gut or this is the reason it might be having?
So I remember when this must be 2014, 15, when we were doing the report for the first time. We were still in R&D phase. Um, uh, my very first sample, when we were trying to analyze it, I was at risk for rheumatoid arthritis according to my gut microbiome. And I was feeling a little inflammation in my joints at that point of time. And, we did a lot of correlations and we went back to the amount of broccoli I used to eat. I used to consume kgs and kgs of broccoli at that point of time. So, um, binging on one particular type of food is also bad. And that's the realization. So, it was that journey that made me understand the microbiome better. Initially, I thought microbiome was pseudoscience. And, it's things like that that made me change my perception about it.
It's funny you had to get the reality check to change the entire concept and you build a company on that particular principle. That's nice. When people say a lot about microbiome and health stuff, right? It's not necessary that all people have the knowledge of what goes in your gut, but they do have a lot of food suggestion and they have their own recipe and some people like very this I sounded bizarre, but some people like it. You drink a Coke or a Pepsi and it reduces your acidity. They have these kind of information, like lots of information to provide. Do you have anything to say, or you have any like saying to disconnect that from people?
So I keep hearing all about these fad diets, these, this food is good for you, that food is bad for you, kind of a thing. I do not like that notion as much, because if you consume one thing too much, that is problematic. If you don't consume something at all, that is also problematic. So the right way to do it is try and eat as many different variety of food as possible. And when you start doing that, you automatically you automatically try and get a small portion of different kinds of foods that's available. And at the same time, there are a lot of myths about food in general, right? Everybody has an opinion about food. Um, I mean, you ask anybody at home, you go ask your mother, grandmother, any of them, they will say, no, this is good, that is bad. I'm maybe there are years of observation that's gone into it, or that is their reality that they have come from. It's I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong, but what I'm trying to say is far more complicated than that.
Let's try to simplify it a little more so that normal people can understand, not just the person who's done a lot of research on it,
Sure.
right? So there's a lot of gut health advice given by older people, newer people, doctors and everything, but it sounds right, it works temporarily, but is there anything that misses the point? um, let's say it works temporarily, like basically I asked about soda or drinking. So, feels like you're burping and feels like you're releasing the acid reflux or whatever it is. But on similar lines, you think any advice that sounds right but misses the point completely?
Oh, lots of it, right? I mean, it could cure your symptom at that point of time, but it could be damaging your gut even more by doing it on a regular basis. Let's take this example. I mean, I've heard it so many times. Soda, drink soda, so that uh, you might feel better. Okay, but how much of damage is it actually doing to your gut? Especially if you're drinking Pepsi and Coke, which is so loaded with sugar, how much of it is actually messing up with your gut is over time is what the question is. So yes, a lot of it sounds good. Symptomatically, it could give you relief, but going down to the root cause and actually correcting that is a much better approach.
So apart from this testing done, I'm going a little bit off the script. So apart from this testing done, and we are understanding a little bit that not every knowledge we have on gut, since it's changing every day, and not all the advice from previous generations might help today. So apart from the test, you have any other suggestion to uh, not, you also mentioned that you need to monitor yourself too. Apart from that, any suggestion you have to realize your own body first?
I mean, listen to your body. I mean, when you're thirsty, you have to drink water, right? So that you have to find signs that your body is telling you about certain things. If you're craving for a particular kind of food, okay, understand whether that craving is good or bad. I mean, craving for French fries every day, which is what I tend to crave for the most, is I mean, need not be a good sign, right? So understanding what your body is trying to tell you and to differentiate between need and craving is takes a lot of mental focus on yourself to try and achieve it.
Sometimes see, simple answers gives more comfort than the complicated ones. No, be it in any kind of related field, not just science, religious as well. So why does it happen, or do you find that in this field or the microbiome, the gut health, the simple answers also make sense?
Yeah, I mean, because it's easy to digest simple answers, right? I mean, uh, going off track a little bit, I was reading an article yesterday saying that why the stock markets in India relying on profit margins as much and not on underlying IP behind it, because that's a simple answer. Everybody understands profit. So similarly, in gut health, also simple answers. People tend to understand that better. I mean, and complicated scientific terms puts people off. And the fault is with people like us, with researchers, anybody in this field who give very complicated answers all the time. I mean, if we can simplify it, if we can give complicated answers in a very simple manner, that'll also help educate people.
In food, generally, in family, we have different ages of group of people, like kids, family, older people, and everyone. But usually, the food we eat, it's kind of suggestion one size fits all of them. You have an advice on that? Is it good? Is it hard to change?
I mean, not necessarily, right? It depends. A growing child needs all kinds of food and nutrition and whatever what a growing child needs. An elderly person might have underlying health issues for which food needs to be tailored in that way. So it becomes very, very difficult. I mean, we get families who do the test, and for them the most difficult part of it is try and get the food right for different people in the family. And uh, that's when people tend to slip. Can I just get away with supplementation and not focus on food? So it, yes, it's a challenge, but it's something. If you can find some common ground and some workarounds, it is always beneficial.
But is there any danger involved or risk involved in it, or is just the discomfort or like temporary problems with nutrition? I'm not on nutrition per se, but is there any danger or risk involved when you're having the same food for all the age group?
Well, it depends on what is getting missed out, right? I mean, a grown child might need a lot of vitamins and a lot of protein intake. All of that might be needed. An elderly person might not be able to digest so much of protein that is going into their body. So, yes, temporarily it might not be a problem, but in the long run, it's better to tailor. N is equal to one, so it's better to tailor the food for yourself rather than for your group.
We have been discussing a lot. Okay, it feels little more uh, textbook or a research paper analysis. Did have it? No, that's how I feel when I discussed more topics. But if you can give me a real life example so that people can connect on what happened and how did we change it, or how did they change it, what was the solution for it?
Okay, let's look at it. So there's this family of four, husband, wife, and two children. Okay, the first thing they wanted to do is get away with the carbonated drinks. Okay, now there are two problems for the young kids. Carbonated drinks were a cool thing, and for the adults, they were kind of slightly addicted to that sweet taste of Pepsi and Coke. Uh, so they did I remember them taking about a few months to get into kefir and kombuchas, okay, which they started doing it at home itself. So the change that they did was, as a family, they started brewing the kefir. And it is then, that entire process became exciting, right? I mean, it was, you get the grains, you ferment it, you get it into a drink, and you see the fizziness of a fermented drink. So the kids are excited to see the fizziness. And once you start drinking it, it became, it was wonderful. There was that the bridge from picking up a new drink and drinking it uh, became that much more exciting to overcome. But the problem then happened was, how many the kids can consume a lot more caffeine in a day than the elders in the family. So then they had to titrate that a little bit. So it wasn't it was the same food, but it was consumption of quantity that mattered a lot.
It's a. I was about to call back for the Rohini's podcast because she did mention on the homemade carbonated drinks, and it was exciting for her kids too. And she was like happy, and it's a kind of fun to have an activity with your family in the food process because they get excited a little more to drink it.
Correct.
Rohini also mentioned that you kind of grow your own. I forgot the term for it. So you nurture the. She had basically a bottle with ginger and other thing.
The SCOBY for the kombucha.
Yeah, so she adds that into the fruit drink, and that's how they get the carbonated drinks.
Yes.
Oh, the whole process, if you could quickly run through us, so that it's. I want to add one more question to that.
Okay. Difficult for me to, maybe we should call Roni again
Yes.
to give you a line by line answer. But basically, you're fermenting different kinds of. So there is brine water fermentation of vegetables. So that is adding salt water and putting vegetables in it, and fermenting it, eating the vegetable. That's really really good. Which later on has become commercialized, industrialized into pickles. But it started off as brine water fermentation of vegetables. Similarly with kombucha and kefir, I mean, it is just fermentation of the base ingredient. In when it's kombucha, it is the SCOBY that is being used, and in kefir, it is the grains, the kefir grains that is being used. Fermentation of leftover rice also is pretty nice. I mean, that's the thing that I enjoy the most.
It's the kanji.
It's a kanji. Add a little bit of water, add a little bit of mustard seeds. Next day in the morning, add a little bit of chili to it, and I love that drink. So
Nice. So I'll talk about food a little more, but just since we opened up this discussion, I wanted to ask. There's a lot of different vegetables. The one we mentioned about the salt and the vegetables, yeah, and sort of other varieties. That particular thing, when we home make it, is there anything we need to keep monitoring it because every vegetable has its own effects, pros and cons?
yeah, so which is why I'm saying don't binge on one vegetable all the time. I mean, mix and match the vegetables as much as possible. And fermentation is also. I mean, there's a limit on the amount of fermentation that you're doing, right? I mean, you keep it for days and days together. Then it there's a thin line between it being good and it being spoiled. So the right amount of fermentation is what is needed, not over fermentation.
What starts the path towards that unhealthy food, especially carbonated drinks or any kind of sweets? I also understood that with growing uh, acidity reflex or anything, sugar is also very unhealthy. It actually worsens the
Correct.
problem. So, but people keep going back to it with the carbonated drinks, and we also discussed in the last podcast that our microbiome in the gut is growing related to that, and it's maybe craving for it.
Correct.
But what starts it? What triggers it so that we can try to avoid that?
There's no trigger, right? I mean, it's your daily lifestyle. It's you have one carbonated drink, maybe it won't affect you. But if you have one drink every day, then it starts building that ecosystem in you. So every food with added sugar in it will have a certain kind of effect in your, yeah, in your biome, which might not be good in the long run. So it is not about that one incident where you go and remove. It is the micro habits that you need to watch out, and you need to curtail yourself.
This particular word I want to keep in mind because we have a topic to discuss on this on the next podcast as well. But for now, when we start eating healthy, we feel little uncomfortable because it's so tempting to feed on that particular uh, food which is not good for you. But eating healthier is little more discomforting, right? Like it feels worse when you start off healthier food. Why is that?
The process of breaking down the food is new to the microbes that are there, right? Not enough microbes might be present to break down all the new food that is coming into that system. And hence it could cause a little bit of bloating issues. All of that could happen. So but with time that'll go away. In a few days time that'll go away. So sometimes it's better to start gradually than to start binging on what is healthy food and going there. It's um, sometimes when you're thinking about diet, it's not about the meal that you're having. It is about if it take a week and say that, in the week I've done healthy food or the food that you want to eat in so many meals, that would be a much better way to go rather than try and force yourself to try and eat healthy all the time.
But isn't it better to continue in the long run to be healthier?
Yeah, you do this for about 2 or 3 weeks, automatically you will start craving for healthy food because the microbes are also changing there, right? So so the way, it's a secret that I'm giving out right now, but the way that I usually trick family members is that I keep saying that you just have to do it for 2 weeks. Grit your teeth for 2 weeks and eat your kale and lettuce and all the good stuff, all the good green stuff. What I don't tell them is after 2 3 weeks they themselves want is like, can I have a salad? And you look at the French fries and you don't feel like eating it. That's an automatic body reaction that will happen. But that 2 weeks of grit is needed.
Let me try and understand the science little more and what exactly happens microbially during this transition.
So there is a food that is entering into your system. Maybe so our body does not produce enough enzyme to break down every food that is there. Okay, we can break down milk, we can break down a few simple carbs, but complex food that is going into our system, our body does not make enough enzymes and proteins for it. We are dependent on the microbial ecosystem to break down this food. Maybe there is a microbe that is already present over there that can break down the food. Or maybe that microbe is not there in your system. Which is why when you go to a foreign land and eat a foreign food, which you're not accustomed to, it might cause a problem to your gut because the microbes are not there to
Process.
to process it and break it down. But if you start taking that in small quantities, those microbes tend to colonize your gut and they will start helping you break down the food, which is exactly what is happening when you go on a different diet, right? And in this case, you're trying to go on a health diet and you've never eaten a lettuce in your life and suddenly you're eating lettuce right now. It could be, the ecosystem is not there to break it down. So slowly over time, that ecosystem will build and it can start breaking it down. So the discomfort that you will feel at that point of time is temporary for a few days till that ecosystem builds.
This is just a fun question because you brought this up because the country stuff. Recently, I've been studying. There was a drink in Japan when other country people when they traveled to Japan and they couldn't digest the food or any other alcoholic drinks which they had, and it's every country has its own way of processing these stuff. And they have a small drink in 7-Eleven and they drink it in the morning before all these food and stuff, and it's completely washed out and it helps. Do you think it has microbes in it, or would you be able to create a drink like that in future for every country so that people go there, have their microbiome for that country and they can eat whatever they want?
That'll be great, right? I mean, I can have all the pizzas in the world, but I won't put on weight because of I'm getting the right microbiome after that. Or the case an example for this. But see, over-the-counter drinks are over-the-counter supplement shots or medication, and that is very limited. So I don't know of the example that you're talking about. I'll probably check it up and we can discuss about this in our later podcast. But from a supplementation point of view, from a shots point of view, there are only 31 probiotics that have been approved worldwide. Okay,
So that it's consumed by the processed bottles.
in the process bottles. I mean, when we talk about natural fermented drinks like a kombucha kefir, we don't know what the microbes that are there and that there could be all kinds of microbes, but that's a different category by itself. But when you're talking about supplements and when you're talking about supplement shots, then it is very, very tailored to these. It could be any of these 31 probiotics. And in our gut, we have thousands of different species. So,
And there is a lot of that we still don't know.
we still don't know, but it's an exciting area to work in. So that's something that even we are trying to see if we can come up with a product which can help you.
Digest that particular country food.
Correct. Let's start simple. I want to eat. I used to binge a lot on my mom's cooking. Now I can't do it anymore. Can you give me a shot It'll help me digest that. So if we get to that stage, it'll be great.
I'll come back to the food questions more. It's for fun for me to ask on related food.
Sure.
But we usually say mindset also changes the gut, how it works, right? Like depending on your mood and depending on mindset, how you're feeling, that also changes on how you process the food in your stomach. But as we discussed, there is a lot of emphasis on microbes present in your gut. That is how the food has been processed, and that is the reason you have whatever the issues you have. But if you have the right microbes, it's easier to digest and it's better for a healthy lifestyle. But when these people say about how your mindset is, what is the correlation? What is happening there?
So the gut and the brain are connected, and it's connected bidirectionally. Okay, so whatever happens in the gut affects the brain, and whatever is happening in the brain affects the gut. Okay, so it's a bidirectional effect. So sometimes more than food, stress itself can damage your gut quite a bit. So if you're really stressed, it can change your gut microbiome without ever your food change it. So that can happen. So that is something to be very mindful of, where you have to be mindful of the fact that your brain can affect your gut, and the amount of stress can actually cause, excuse me, a change in your gut microbiome, which can then start leading to other kinds of problems.
Your microbes and whatever we eat and how we eat keeps us brain healthy, right? Because you mentioned that it's works vice versa, like it
Yep.
works both ways. But when do we know like to push through and to slow it down so that we don't affect in a way that we get an aversion towards eating healthy, let's say?
No, I mean that's a difficult choice to make. I mean, you need to be, like I'm saying, you need to be very conscious about the way you're feeling, how your body is reacting to it. Uh, if it's slightly worse, and then if you have clinically symptomatic of a few disease, then you'll have to consult with a healthcare professional and see what is working with you and what is not working with you. But there is no easy answer to this. You can't say that when you reach this threshold, do this kind of a thing. So it the microbiome is transient. That means it changes over a period of time. Does not happen on a daily basis, but over a few months, 3 to 6 months time, you do see the microbiome changing, and you'll have to be conscious about that.
But do we get any symptoms or do we get any? You have any suggestions on what to be monitored in your body so that we know that we are not pushing it in a way that it's harming our body?
See, let's look at the reverse thing. Okay, let's look at brain fog. I mean, you get up in the morning, you don't feel like doing anything. You're lethargic. You just feel like sitting at home and not doing anything at all. And that is because of all the kind of food that you've been eating in the past few days. That is creating that brain fog over there. Now, if it happened once, it's okay. But if it continuously happens, that means you're messing up your entire system, and you're going more and more down this path, which could eventually lead to something like depression, for example. So that is something that you will have to be conscious and monitor.
How does it feel to have a balanced gut so that I know that this is a kind of sweet spot that I'm not in a bad like over healthy way or it's kind of worsening.
That's the challenge, right? I mean, we all now have an understanding of what an unhealthy gut looks like. Yeah, okay, but we still don't know what the ideal gut looks like. I mean, even when we're reporting, we're looking at saying that it is it is we've taken measurements of healthy people. So we've taken blood tests of and taken a questionnaire of healthy people, and say your gut is matching a healthy person. But is that an ideal gut? Don't know. It's a constant effort to keep the gut in balance, and it is the gut microbiome is influenced by so many things. It's influenced by the food that we eat. It's influenced by the kind of exercise that we do. I mean, there are studies, multiple studies that shows that exercise independent of diet affects the gut microbiome. So the kind of exercise that we do, the environment that we live in, pollution, trees, dogs, cats, the environment that we live in. So everything affects the gut microbiome. So the key is to be conscious that there needs to be a balance that needs to be maintained, and to micro habits to keep doing to make it keep it balanced as much as possible on a day-to-day basis.
You were saying that we still don't know the ideal gut looks like. But do we have a scenario to paint a picture on what exactly your lifestyle should be on the location? I assume because you also mentioned the pollution, the pets we have. We also discussed in the previous podcast about cow being in this thing. The ancient advisors also say that maybe because of that microbes, you feel healthier, and that's they used to say it in a different way because they don't understand the micro strategy or like the importance of it. But do you have any ideal um, scenario for this?
So I won't call it ideal, but the one study which was done on a tribe in Africa, which showed they have no known diseases, no hypertension, no diabetes, no cardiovascular disease, none of the lifestyle diseases that we face. And when they study their gut microbiome, it is the most diverse that we have seen and till date. And the reason is they've had 300 different varieties of fruits, vegetables, meat in a given year. Okay, they're very seasonal because they only eat what grows in that season, so they're very seasonal that way. And even with the meat, I think they're having a lot more variety of meat than what we would have. So that's one aspect of it. So that is a study which has shown what could be the most ideal to human knowledge is in terms of the gut microbiome. At the same time, you give me a microbiome sample now, I'll be able to tell you whether this person is from an urban setting or from a rural setting. Okay, just by the signatures that are there to show how much of pollution is actually entering the gut. So
In one of the microbiome day, we had a microbiome day, right? And one of the doctors discussed about they tested a particular tribe, and their
the
microbe
ecosystem.
ecosystem was double the quantity or double the diverse than the average American person.
Correct.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. So there are multiple tribal studies that are being done right now, and everywhere this is what you're tending to see.
Have we reached a ideal one in among all of them?
Not yet. I mean, we're getting there, but we're still we know what is healthy. I can't say we know what is healthy. We know what could be healthy. Okay, and but we still don't know what could be what is absolute health and what is ideal.
Do you know which bugs are struggling and the balance is off? The 32 ones is approved by the government or the.
Yeah, as a probiotic supplement.
Do you have the particular name of the bugs, or have you identified the species? Which bug is struggling when the balance is off?
No, again, it depends from person to person. What the microbe that could be different in your body could be different in our body, in my body. So, and even probiotics when consumed in excess is problematic. So everything has to be in the right kind of ratios. Even pathogens which cause stomach infection, if it is completely absent, also it's a problem. Needs to be there in trace amount. So it purely depends on the kind of
Individual.
of the individual.
We have been discussing a lot on little more complicated where it's difficult to answer in a straight manner, right? It's where there's more complex information
In a black and white manner.
black and white manner. There's more complex information going behind. It's difficult to put it in a very simple terms. So my next question would be like, what's the biggest oversimplification of the gut health? Uh,
I take a probiotic supplement and everything will be okay. That's probably the most oversimplification that is there out right now.
so even the probiotic has a different kind of.
There are so many types of probiotics. There's a limitation to both probiotic species in a sense as also supplementation. There's probiotics coming from curds, which will affect your body much differently than what a supplement could. So there's so all these nuances are there.
Is it safe to compare where one of the person is suffering from a headache and there's the usual one tablet to go to with all of them without proper consultation from the doctor?
Correct. So I mean, it's something similar to that. But even there, I mean, if you have a headache, when you're taking a tablet, you're targeting one particular pathway in your in your body to stop the headache. All right,
Okay.
which is very difficult to do in the gut because the ecosystem is very very complex. Uh, think of it as a as a city with so many people living in it, and you put a build a new flyover, the traffic jam moves to the next junction.
It's very interesting the way you put it. Right? I was also thinking on similar lines because we are talking about a living organism. Is it safe to say organism? Like,
Yes.
yeah, living organism inside your gut, and it's like an universe we're dealing with, and each microbe or a virus or has individual characteristics, how they work, how what they feed on.
So when we're making the report and when we're giving food recommendation, based on the knowledge that we have gathered, saying that when you're having idli, this is the microbe that feeds on idli, and these are the microbiome these are the microbes that does not feed on idli. So that is so idli has a lot of subnutrients within it, right? So that is the information that we have. So we're either starving a certain set of bacteria or we are feeding a certain set of bacteria. So that is what we're trying to do, and it's very complicated. I mean, if somebody suddenly wants to start eating wants to start eating a new kind of meat. So you're going to China and you're having snakes. Okay, how how is that going to which microbes are going to increase because of that? We don't know, or we need to do that homework to start recommending it. So right now we have enough information on majority of food that we get in India and what is affecting the microbiome and how it is.
So on the food information, on the basis of food, you have information, enough information, but inside the gut, there's still more to go.
Yeah, I mean it's also chemicals released by one bacteria which we don't know how it's affecting another bacteria, right? So it's and think of it. I mean, though after so many years, the way I explain the microbiome universe is think of it as a city. I mean, somebody's gone there, built a house. Now that person will do anything to make sure nobody else is coming and building a house over there. And depending on the environment, you, uh, you'll either hit the intruder, shoot the intruder, or welcome the intruder. You don't know.
You have your own safety measures.
You have your own safety measure. The intruder might have devious means of entering into the house. So it is similar to that.
It's very fascinating as we delve deeper into this universe. But let's not get lost on this. It's very fascinating actually. But why do people chase an ideal microbiome? All the research done on it?
Look, everybody wants the ideal body state, right? I mean, I would love to be healthy, active, running a marathon, um, uh, coming up with science that can send rockets to Mars, all on the same day, right? So it's trying to achieve and which is why a lot of us trying to get that endeavor to get an ideal state of the microbiome, um, which is not a one-time effort, but everyday regular practices.
There are different kind of strains. Can there be two different or three different strains, but all of them are healthy?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, so let's terminology wise, let's get this. So there are different species of microbes.
Okay.
Each species has hundreds of strains.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. And to the audience, COVID is a good example. You know the COVID virus, so that's the species. Then you got your A, B, C, D, E, all those different strains that started coming out, and each strain behaves slightly differently from the other. So that's how the microbial world is.
That's why they wanted to research more on the vaccine so that each strain can be effective.
Correct, correct. So similarly, there's I mean, Lactobacillus plantarum is a probiotic species. Within plantarum itself, there are hundreds of strains that are currently identified. There could be hundreds more which are not yet identified till date.
Yeah. Do you have a number on
So we have one of the largest microbial databases, which is close to about 350,000 right now.
an individual person?
Not only, I mean, all, I mean, this is
The
the
very
known microbes that are out there.
what's the highest and found in an individual person?
There was once where it went up to about 2,800 species.
Oh,
But this person was also quite ill. So, which is why we don't know whether too much of diversity is where and what kind of diversity, right? So, there's also viruses, fungus in it. So, maybe that population was supposed too much
yeah.
in that person. But there's from a species diversity point of view, we've 2,000 is what we've seen.
Quite a vast difference, right? From 2,800, an individual person, but you have more than 3 lakh.
Yeah, but if you look at my set of species and your set of species, there could be some which overlap. There could be some which are different. And then you take Indians versus Chinese. There could be some that overlap. Some that could be different. And you say if you take Western Hemisphere versus Eastern part of the globe, there could be some which are common, some which are different. So if you start doing this way, there are different species of microbes that are there. And the 350,000 that we have is more, again, it's down to the strain level information, and it's more from all kinds of environments. So it could be from soil, it could be from seawater, could be from different
What we consume also. That's
Yeah.
what, yeah.
So you never know what a person is consuming, and this is something that we learned the hard way. So we have all the microbial species to look for.
Is there a factor which differentiates these microbes? Because you mentioned that we have a vast variety of different from other country, race, but even we both raised, let's say for a ideal scenario, we both are raised in Bangalore. We are at the same age, same environment per se, but we still have a different environment inside our gut.
Correct, because not all of our habits and all the things that we eat are going to be exactly the same, right? I mean, there are going to be, you fell ill, you took an antibiotic, and
Okay.
that would have reset a little bit of the gut microbiome a little bit, and then it's a lottery ticket of what is growing post that. So yes, there could be there could be 80-90% similarity, but there still could be 10% difference between you and me.
Even the food changes.
Even Abhishek on in 2026 versus Abhishek in 2027, there could be a lot of changes in the species that are there.
Not just the food, even the medicine
Yeah,
effects.
yes.
Whatever you consume.
Whatever you consume, whatever kind of environment you interact in. You're sitting in a closed room in an AC, and there's an inbuilt microbiome over there. There are companies trying to put probiotics into the AC, so topic for another day. But that's as opposed to shooting this podcast outside in a dense forest or something like that. So
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
On this topic, the thing about science fiction and time travel, I keep talking about you can't you can't go back to the past because the microbes are so different that once you go over there, it'll start attacking your body, and and won't be like the microbes that we have right now.
It might not even survive, right? Because it's the environment is not inhabitable friendly. So what balance is difficult to achieve than people expect? It's ideal balance which we dream of or we try to target. Like let's say an active sports person or a athlete. Compared to them, if a normal regular person, what's the like where do you have draw the line?
So this is what we thought. No, we thought a sports person would have a good, healthy microbiome. But we've pretty much tested a lot of international athletes, and all of them have really bad microbiomes. And that's because they put so much of stress on their body, right? Physical stress on their body, which is causing changes in the microbiome. So somebody with an ideal microbiome could be a villager doing little bit of manual labor, having all kinds of food, relaxed life, no tension, no traffic jams. So, but to answer your question, getting the balance is an ongoing effort. Yeah, I mean, it's not like you achieved it and you're going to be there. It's an everyday effort to get there, to get the right kind of balance.
Are we should we worry a lot or like where's the stress level should be?
Yeah, don't take the stress. I mean, it's affecting your gut, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be mindful of these things, and try to incorporate it as micro habits into your life. If you stress about it and try and overachieve it, it'll become a problem. So be conscious about it. I mean, just like there is now growing consciousness about trying not to use antibiotics. Okay, you try and avoid it as much as possible. Similarly, I'll give you another example: using sanitizers and sanitizers. So it is so bad to use sanitizers without the reason. People working in a hospital in exposed to a lot of viruses, yes, use a hand sanitizer. You go to a hospital or you go next to a person who's been infected, yes, use sanitizers. But to do it on a daily basis is problematic. So these need to be mindful of these small things and try to incorporate that in your life. And the other, which is also a very difficult thing to do, is see if you can eat as diverse as possible. Um,
I think we're circling back to the same.
Same thing. I mean, it's simple in that way, but if we can get that done, it's difficult to execute it.
Consuming or having treatment tablets or medicines also has side effects, right? It's one of the reasons. Is it? Would you say it's one of the reasons because the medicine is trying to defeat or it's used for a purpose, but along the way it's damaging other microbiomes and viruses.
Yeah, antibiotics, especially broad spectrum antibiotics, are like that, right? It's almost like a nuclear bomb going off in your gut. It's killing indiscriminately, and along with what needs to be killed, all the other ones, all the innocent bystanders are also getting killed, which is where the problem is.
We're nearing the end of the podcast. We have only a couple more questions to ask. One of the main question I really want to ask is how much does it affect because due to stress? Like, does stress affect so much that it's actually um, bringing the stage that you're falling ill?
It does. So when it's a silent killer, right? Stress. I mean, it affects you. We can clearly see diversity coming down when people are more stressful. So it is a big factor.
Can stress also make you feel healthy food is little bit uncomfortable? Can that also trigger that I don't want to eat healthy food?
That's because your microbiome is already changed, and because of that, the cycle is going back saying that you're feeling a little bit of discomfort for new food, which is healthy food that's coming into your system. Yes, it can have a indirect effect to it.
There is also saying, but I don't want to get into that. But constantly tracking your symptom can worsen your symptoms. Is that the thing?
Not sure about that, Abhishek. I mean, it's not acting on the symptoms and not finding the root cause of what is causing the symptoms that can make it a bigger problem.
If you can paint us a picture on what exactly happens on during a stressful week for me, uh, biologically, like inside our gut.
Um, let's look at it. I mean, there are multiple things that could happen, right? One, there is stress. The brain, it's releasing chemicals in the gut, which is either damaging some of the gut lining. So the microbes that are there in the gut, which are supposed to be there only in the gut, are leaking out and going into the system, or the chemicals that the microbes are producing are leaking out and going into the other body systems, which could cause multiple cascading effects. Or um, uh, you're stressed, certain microbes are sensing that signal. It's been proven that it sends out chemicals where you reach for comfort food, and your comfort food could be an ice cream, could be a um, you know could be, I keep going back to french fries, but it could be anything like this, right? Which could also start causing problems. So it can have effect in multiple such ways.
When we talk about these two, we have diet and we have stress to maintain because these are, I feel like, the two major concerns to affect your body, does affect your body. But people do take stress lightly than diet because we have a lot more discussion on diet, what to eat and how to eat. And because most of the bodybuilders or the models, when they talk about it, they say 80% of your body is done through diet. But they don't talk about stress enough. Do people underestimate stress?
And secondly, stress is not something which is easy and measurable, right? I mean, it's you don't know you're under stress sometimes. I'll give you a clean example where, during COVID, when before entering office, we had to get the pulse oximeter reading, and come into office. So I find I've been driving ever since I got my license. I've been driving in Bangalore, and I enjoy driving. I mean, it's not. I've never found driving stressful in Bangalore. But every time I used to drive to office and took my pulse reading, it was on the higher side. It was still normal, but it was still pulse was high as opposed to going by metro. And that's when I started to realize maybe stress is acting in ways that you don't even realize. And of course, there are jobs where it's just highly stressful. All of that is there where you can actually feel it. But stress is something that you can't you can't say, like pain. You're saying, no, I have pain over here. You can't say that about stress, right? And that is why it probably doesn't get talked that often. And stress is not something you can struggle with, and which is what the most recommended thing to do is struggle with stress. So there's a lot more limelight on it right now, but I think, like you rightly mentioned, we have to increase this conversation.
Yeah. As you mentioned, that there is a lot of certain things, especially driving in Bangalore, can cause this stress without even realizing. Because you've been driving for such a long time, you feel it's normal. But there's internal struggle happening, an internal stress which you don't even consider, you don't know. So, what's the ideal or a hopeful part to achieve at the stresses in an optimal level?
I mean, there are multiple ways of doing this, right? First of all, I mean, there are so many wearables that are available nowadays, which lets you monitor how much of stress that you're actually undergoing, and that'll help you understand your body much better. Looking at your microbiome scores itself will give you another indication of how much it's impacting your body. And um, my way of reducing stress is, uh, especially work stress, is try and switch off after 6 o'clock. Not think about work. I love to um, throw my phone both metaphorically and actually physically. Just go home and throw it somewhere so that I don't have access to it. I mean that's my way of dealing with what kind of stress I might have. So again, it
Depends on the person.
depends on the person. It depends on, and there are multiple ways of body to do this.
Just to throw one random question on it, does activity also changes this microbiome and stress level, right? Like, be it having an hobby apart from your work, which does not lead to an target, so that it's just doing it for fun or activity.
Correct.
So that is one thing which
And physical activity, independent of diet, can also change the gut microbiome. So it to the for the better. So imagine just after a stressful day, just taking about a 15-minute walk or a jog or something like that will definitely help.
what's the one gut health fear you wish people would stop?
That gut health damage is irreparable. That once something goes wrong, nothing can be done to rectify it. So I mean, there are so many things that can be done to rectify it. So don't fear about it. Just understand what is going wrong and then try and come and fix it.
So the most of the gut related issues can be healed.
Correct. Yes.
Some gut related issues are slow recovery. How do we be hopeful for that? Like, what's the motivation would you give for that?
In my experience, most of the gut related issues are slow. I mean, you can't overnight change it and make it better. So again, it is acknowledging the fact that you need to be patient for the recovery to happen. And now the number of people we deal with, the growing evidence that if they can grit their teeth and go through a few months of the recovery protocol, your life after that is much better. So um, sorry, patience is needed.
Slow recovery causes stress. Stress causes. It's a vicious cycle.
No, expectation of a fast recovery causes stress. So once you take away that expectation, then slow recoveries works really well.
Keeping expectation low is also better way to go.
Yes.
But why do people assume the damage is permanent? Is there a reason? Like it hasn't incidents before?
Um, I don't know what the right reason could be, but it's I think growing up and seeing your parents always complain about, oh, my stomach's not doing all right today. You've seen it for 20, 30 years, and you're assuming if you have a stomach problem, it's going to be like this lifelong, which is
It's just another day in our family.
yeah, it's exactly, which is not the case, right? So I think that's my theory, but
If a microbe could correct one myth, what would that be? So to end the session with.
if a microbe could, my favorite is E. coli, okay, which is a known pathogen, bad bacteria. It can cause all kinds of issues in the stomach and in the body, and gut related issues. But having no E. coli in the gut is also bad. So um, sometimes going and having a roadside pani puri is also good medicine.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kumar. We'll be back for the next podcast next week. Also, thank you.
Thank you.